"You didn't have to do that," the old woman said from the porch, her voice thin but steady. "Nobody's touched that lawn in 8 months." Cormac Shelley turned off the mower and wiped his forearm across his forehead. The afternoon was warm, and the grass had been nearly knee-high when he started. He looked up at Eudora Vance, 79 years old, small in the doorway, holding the frame like she wasn't sure the world was still solid beneath her, and said the only true thing he had. "I noticed it every morning on my way to work. I should have come sooner." Eudora looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "Come have some water before you go." He did. He always would after that. Cormac was 33 and lived alone in the house next door, which he rented and kept spare and clean the way solitary people do when order is the only thing they fully control. He worked long hours at a civil engineering firm downtown and came home most evenings too tired for more than a simple meal and whatever book was on his nightstand. He had no family nearby. He had colleagues he liked and friends he kept meaning to see more often. He was, by every ordinary measure, fine, and quietly, in the way that takes years to name, lonelier than he admitted to himself. He had watched Eudora's lawn grow wild through May and June and told himself someone else would handle it. Then July came and no one had, and one Saturday morning he simply walked over with the mower from his own garage and began. What he didn't know was that Eudora had been watching from her window for 3 weeks, hoping someone would come. Her hip had made the lawn impossible. Her daughter Sylvie, 25, living 2 hours away, working double shifts as a nurse, sent money when she could and called every Sunday, and carried the particular guilt of a person doing their genuine best while knowing it isn't quite enough. Eudora hadn't called Sylvie about the lawn. She hadn't wanted to add one more thing to the pile her daughter was already carrying. After that first Saturday, Cormac came back. Every 2 weeks, without announcement. He would mow, trim the edges, and occasionally fix small things he noticed, a loose porch step or a gate latch that no longer caught. Eudora began leaving a glass of cold sweet tea on the porch railing before he arrived, which was her way of saying she expected him and was glad. They talked slowly, the way people talk when they are in no hurry and have both learned that rushing things loses something. He told her about his work, his quiet evenings, the book he was reading. She told him about her husband, Leonard, gone 11 years, and about Sylvie, who had her father's stubbornness and her mother's heart, and had been raising herself emotionally since Leonard died, because Eudora had spent 2 years lost in grief, and Sylvie had simply quietly become capable without anyone noticing the cost. "She never complains," Eudora said one afternoon, turning her tea glass slowly in her hands. "That's the thing that worries me most." Cormac nodded. He understood the particular loneliness of people who are always the ones holding steady. Sylvie came home on a weekend in August. She pulled into the driveway and stopped when she saw the lawn, green, trimmed, the edges clean. She stood beside her car for a moment before going inside, and when she asked her mother who had done it, Eudora said simply, "The young man next door, Cormac. He's good people." Sylvie knocked on his door that evening to say thank you. She was direct in the way of someone who had learned to say necessary things without wasting time, and her eyes were the kind that looked at you steadily, which Cormac found immediately disarming. They talked on his porch for 40 minutes. She drove back to the city on Sunday with something she hadn't arrived with, though she couldn't have named exactly what it was.
What neither of them knew was what Eudora did that same Sunday night. She called her attorney on Monday morning. She had a will, had always had one, simple and practical, leaving everything to Sylvie. But she added something. The house next door was currently for sale by its landlord. Eudora had savings she had told no one about. Leonard's insurance, carefully untouched for a decade, waiting for something that mattered. She arranged to purchase the property and added it to her revised will, designated for Cormac, with a letter she wrote herself in longhand that simply said, "You saw what needed doing, and you did it. That is rarer than gold. Leonard would have liked you." She told no one. She sealed the envelope and placed it with her documents and made herself another cup of tea and went to bed feeling, for the first time in a long while, that the accounting of her life was in order. Eudora passed the following spring, gently and at home, with Sylvie beside her. It was the attorney who called Cormac 3 weeks after the funeral. He sat in his sparse living room afterward, holding a letter in handwriting that slanted slightly to the left, and read it 3 times. Then he set it down on the table very carefully, as though it were something that could break. He thought about a glass of sweet tea on a porch railing, about a woman who noticed that he came and was glad and never once made him feel that what he gave needed to be larger. He called Sylvie. She already knew, had known since the attorney called her, and when she answered, she sounded like someone who had been crying and made peace with that. "She didn't tell me, she just decided, quietly, the way she did everything." "I only mowed the lawn," Cormac said. His voice was not quite steady. "No," Sylvie said softly. "You showed up. That was the whole thing. You just kept showing up." Kindness does not require grand gestures. Sometimes it is only a lawn mowed on a warm Saturday morning by a man who noticed something needing doing and decided that was reason enough. Show up for the people around you. You may never know how much your presence means, but they will.
If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.